They said she was untouchable. Vincentina Stormcrest wasn't just a mafia princess, she was a natural disaster in stilettos. Her father, Gabriel Whitthorn, ruled the city with an iron fist, yet he couldn't control the one thing that mattered most. Men feared her, rivals wanted her dead, and her bodyguards? They usually quit after day one. But then, a waitress with nothing to lose did the unthinkable. She didn't bow, she didn't run, she looked the devil's daughter in the eye and changed the underworld forever. This is the story of how a spilled drink started a war. The sound of crystal shattering against marble wasn't uncommon at the Gilded Lily, the city's most exclusive supper club. Usually it signaled a clumsy busboy or a toast gone wrong. Tonight, however, the silence that followed the crash was heavy, thick with a specific kind of terror that only one surname could induce. Stormcrest. Elena Vance froze, her tray of champagne flutes trembling ever so slightly in her grip. She was 3 hours into a double shift. Her feet were throbbing, and her rent was 6 days overdue. She didn't have time for drama, yet drama had just walked in wearing a blood-red dress and a scowl that could curdle milk. In the center of the VIP section, Vincentina Stormcrest stood like a deity of destruction. At 22, she was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Sharp angles, darker eyes, and an air of entitlement that suffocated the room. At her feet lay the remains of a magnum of vintage Pinot Noir, currently seeping into the Persian rug like a fresh wound. I said. Vincentina's voice was low, a velvet rasp that carried effortlessly across the silent room. That I wanted the 1998 vintage. This swill is from 2004. Do I look like I drink 2004, Harrison? Standing opposite her was Harrison Morvale. He was handsome in a generic, catalog model sort of way, but right now, he looked like a man realizing he was standing on a landmine. Harrison was one of Gabriel Whitthorn's lieutenants, a man who supposedly killed 3 rivals in a single night. Yet here he was, sweating profusely because a girl didn't like her wine. Vincentina, please, Harrison hissed, glancing around the room where the city's elite were pretending not to watch. Your father, Mr. Whitthorn, specifically asked for a quiet evening. We can get another bottle. Just sit down. Sit down? Vincentina laughed, a cold, jagged sound. She reached for a bread plate and sent it sailing. It smashed against the wall, inches from a senator's head. I am not a dog, Harrison. You don't tell me to sit. The manager, a rotund man named Pierre, was hiding behind the host stand. The security guards were looking at the floor. No one moved. This was the rule in the city. You let Vincentina Stormcrest burn the house down, and then you sent the bill to Gabriel Whitthorn. Elena watched, her exhaustion morphing into a strange, detached irritation. She watched Harrison grab Vincentina's wrist, a fatal error. Let go of me, Vincentina shrieked, snatching a steak knife from the table. The room gasped. Security surged forward but stopped. To tackle the boss's daughter was suicide. To let her stab a lieutenant was negligence. They were paralyzed. Harrison released her, backing up, hands raised. Vinny, put the knife down. Don't call me Vinny. She lunged, not to kill, but to maim, to terrify. She was a hurricane of chaotic energy, a girl screaming for attention in the only language she had ever been taught, violence. She swept her arm across the table, sending silverware, candles, and food crashing to the floor. A piece of flying calamari landed on Elena's apron. Something inside Elena snapped. It wasn't bravery. It wasn't stupidity. It was the sheer, unadulterated fatigue of a woman who had worked 14 days in a row and just wanted to go home without witnessing a homicide. Elena set her tray down on a nearby table with a deliberate clack. She walked into the blast zone. Hey! Elena's voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp, cutting through the hysteria. Vincentina froze, the steak knife hovering in midair. She turned slowly, her dark eyes narrowing as they landed on the waitress. Excuse me? Are you speaking to me, help? Yes, I am, Elena said, marching up to the girl who was worth more than the entire city block. Elena pointed at the floor. You're making a mess. And you're scaring the customers. Put the knife down. The silence in the room deepened. It was absolute. Harrison looked at Elena as if she were a ghost. Vincentina blinked, genuinely confused. Do you know who I am? I know you're behaving like a toddler who missed nap time. Elena deadpanned. Her heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. But her face was a mask of bored annoyance. I don't care who your father is. I have 3 tables waiting for dessert, and I can't serve them while you're throwing cutlery. Drop the knife. Now. Vincentina's mouth opened, then closed. Her face flushed a dangerous crimson. You little rat. I could have you killed. I could snap my fingers and what? Elena stepped closer, invading Vincentina's personal space. She was shorter than the Mafia princess, but at that moment she felt 10 feet tall. You'll have your daddy fix it? That's boring, honey. Everyone knows you can't handle your own life. Prove them wrong. Sit down, shut up, and eat your dinner. For a second, everyone expected Elena to die. Harrison actually reached for his holster. Vincentina stared at Elena. The fury in her eyes warred with shock. No one spoke to her like this. No one. They begged, they cowered, or they patronized. But this waitress looked at her with the same exhausted disappointment a mother gives a misbehaving child. The knife lowered. You have guts, Vincentina whispered, a dangerous smile touching her lips. Stupid guts. And you have a piece of spinach in your teeth, Elena lied smoothly. Vincentina's hand flew to her mouth in horror. The knife clattered to the floor. Where? Vincentina hissed, turning to a mirror on the wall. In that split second of distraction, Elena kicked the knife under the table, grabbed a napkin, and shoved it into Harrison's stunned hand. Clean up the wine, she ordered the mobster. Then she turned to Vincentina. There's no spinach, but now that you've dropped the weapon, sit. I'll bring you the 98 Pinot. If you throw it, I'm charging it to your personal trust fund, not your dad's account. Elena turned on her heel and walked away. Behind her, the entire restaurant exhaled. Vincentina Stormcrest stood frozen, staring at the retreating back of the waitress, her chest heaving not with rage, but with confusion. She sat down. Harrison, the feared enforcer, was on his knees, blotting wine from the rug with a napkin, looking completely bewildered. From the shadows of the mezzanine balcony, a man watched. He sat in a high-backed velvet chair, a glass of whiskey untouched in his hand. Constantine Fairhill, the consigliere to the Whitthorn Empire, adjusted his glasses. A slow, calculating smile spread across his face. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Gabriel, Constantine said softly. You're not going to believe what I just saw. I think we found the one. The adrenaline wore off around 3 a.m., leaving Elena with nothing but the shaking reality of what she had done. She lay in her twin bed in a studio apartment that smelled faintly of boiled cabbage and mildew. The radiator clanked, a familiar lullaby, but tonight she couldn't sleep. She had humiliated Vincentina Stormcrest. She had ordered Harrison Morvale to clean a rug. I'm dead, she whispered to the water-stained ceiling. I'm actually going to die. She expected a hitman to kick down the door. She expected a firebomb through the window. What she didn't expect was a polite knock at 10 a.m. the next morning. Elena dragged herself out of bed, grabbing the baseball bat she kept by the nightstand. She crept to the door, peering through the peephole. Standing in her hallway, looking utterly out of place amidst the peeling wallpaper and flickering fluorescent lights, was a man in a charcoal suit that cost more than her building. He had slicked back silver-blonde hair and wire-rimmed glasses. It was the man from the balcony, Constantine Fairhill. Elena opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. I don't have money for the Girl Scout cookies. Constantine smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a shark who had just found a seal. Miss Vance. My name is Constantine Fairhill. I represent Mr. Gabriel Whitthorn. Elena's stomach dropped through the floor. Look. About last night. I was tired. I didn't mean to disrespect. Open the door, Elena, Constantine said gently. If we wanted to hurt you, we wouldn't have knocked. The logic was sound, terrifyingly so. With trembling fingers, Elena slid the chain off. Constantine stepped inside, his eyes scanning the cramped apartment. He took in the stack of overdue bills on the counter, the single-cup coffee maker, the worn-out shoes by the door. He didn't sneer. He merely catalogued. Mr. Whitthorn would like to have lunch with you, Constantine said. I'm not hungry. That wasn't a request. Constantine pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and placed it on the small, wobbly table. This is for your time. And for the inconvenience. Elena looked at the envelope. It was thick. I don't want your money, she said. though her voice wavered. "It's not blood money, Miss Vance. It's a consultation fee. Please." Mr. Whitthorn is a busy man, and he is very eager to meet the woman who made his daughter sit down without using a taser. Elena looked at the bat in her hand, then at the suit, then at the envelope. She realized she had two choices: get in the car, or spend the rest of her very short life looking over her shoulder. "Let me change," she said. The ride was silent. The car was a Bentley, the interior smelling of leather and expensive cologne. Constantine drove, humming a classical tune under his breath. They didn't go to a warehouse or a shady dock. They went to the Spire, the tallest glass skyscraper in the financial district. The Whitthorn Corporation headquarters. It was a legitimate front for an illegitimate empire. A fortress of steel and glass touching the clouds. They took a private elevator to the penthouse. When the doors opened, Elena felt the air pressure change. The room was vast, dominated by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. It felt like Olympus. At the far end of the room, behind a desk the size of a small boat, sat Gabriel Whitthorn. He was nothing like the mugshots she had seen on the news. In person, the violence was contained, coiled tight beneath a bespoke navy suit. He was in his mid-40s, with salt and pepper hair and a beard that was meticulously groomed. His eyes were the same dark, endless shade as his daughter's. But where hers were chaotic, his were dead calm. He was writing something with a fountain pen. He didn't look up as they approached. "She's here," Constantine announced, taking a seat on a leather sofa, crossing his legs. Gabriel stopped writing. He capped the pen with a deliberate click. He looked up. Elena felt the weight of his gaze physically. It was like being scanned by an X-ray machine. He stood up, towering over the desk. He was a large man, broad-shouldered and imposing. "Elena Vance," Gabriel said. His voice was deep, gravelly, the voice of a man who gave orders that changed the course of history. 24 years old. High school dropout. Waitress for 6 years. Debt. $42,000. Mostly medical bills for a mother who passed away 2 years ago. Elena stiffened. "You ran a background check. I know everything about you, Elena. I know you steal leftover bread rolls to eat for dinner on Tuesdays. I know you're smart. But you're stuck." Gabriel walked around the desk, leaning against the front of it, crossing his arms. "And I know you made Vincentina listen to you." "She was acting out," Elena said, lifting her chin. "Someone had to stop her." "Harrison Morvale is a trained killer," Gabriel said. "He couldn't stop her. 3 bodyguards quit last month. 1 is currently in therapy. Vincentina is difficult. She's lonely." Elena blurted out. Constantine raised an eyebrow. Gabriel's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" Gabriel asked softly. "She's lonely," Elena repeated, deciding that if she was going to die, she'd die speaking her mind. She was surrounded by people terrified of her. She was acting out because she wanted to see if anyone cared enough to stop her. No one did. Except me. Because I didn't care about the money or the reputation. I just wanted her to stop breaking things. Gabriel stared at her for a long, agonizing minute. Then, a short, dry chuckle escaped his lips. It sounded like it hurt. "Lonely," Gabriel mused. "Perhaps. Or perhaps she is simply ungovernable." "No one is ungovernable," Elena said. Gabriel pushed off the desk and walked toward her. He stopped inches away, his scent of sandalwood and tobacco enveloping her. He was intimidating, yes. But there was a desperation in his eyes that she recognized. It was the look of a parent who had run out of options. "I have a proposition for you, Miss Vance." "I'm a waitress," Elena said. "I don't do whatever you do." "I don't need you to kill anyone," Gabriel said. "I need you to save someone." He gestured to the window, to the city below. "The gala is in 3 weeks. It is the most important night of the year for our organization. All the families will be there. Peace treaties are signed, alliances are made. Vincentina must attend. She must be perfect. She must be charming. She must not stab anyone." Gabriel turned back to Elena. "I want you to be her handler, her companion, her friend. If you can manage it, you will live in the estate. You will ensure she is ready for the gala. You will keep her out of trouble. And if I say no, Then you go back to your apartment, Gabriel said. You keep struggling to pay rent. You keep serving wine to ungrateful snobs. No harm will come to you. I am not a monster to civilians. And if I say yes? Gabriel picked up a piece of paper from his desk and slid it toward her. It was a check. I will pay off your debt. All of it. Plus $100,000 in cash upon completion of the gala. And, Gabriel added, his voice dropping an octave, you will have the protection of the Whitthorn family for life. Elena looked at the check. It was freedom. It was a fresh start. It was also a deal with the devil to babysit a demon. Why me? She asked. Because, Gabriel said, you are the first person she didn't attack. You saw the spinach in her teeth. Elena took a deep breath. She thought of the cold radiator. She thought of the ache in her feet. I have conditions, Elena said. Constantine laughed out loud. Conditions? She has conditions, Gabriel. Name them. Gabriel said, intrigued. I'm not a servant. I'm not a maid. If I do this, I have authority. If she throws a plate, I get to throw one back. And Harrison? He stays 10 feet away. He enables her. Gabriel's lips curved into a genuine smile. It transformed his face from terrifying to devastatingly handsome. Agreed, Gabriel said, extending his hand. Welcome to the family, Elena. The Whitthorn estate was not a house. It was a fortress disguised as a palace. Located on the cliffs overlooking the ocean, it was a sprawling maze of stone, ivy, and surveillance cameras. Elena arrived with a single suitcase. Constantine had driven her, briefing her on the way. Don't let her smell fear, Constantine advised as they pulled up to the massive iron gates. Vincentina is like a predatory animal. If you flinch, she bites. If you stand your ground, she respects you. Eventually, is she actually dangerous? Elena asked, looking at the guards patrolling the perimeter with assault rifles. She set her boarding school on fire because a teacher gave her a B-, Constantine said cheerfully. You'll be fine. They entered the main hall. It was breathtaking marble floors, chandeliers the size of cars, Renaissance art on the walls. But it was cold. It felt empty, devoid of life. Wait here, Constantine said. I'll fetch her. Elena stood alone in the foyer. She smoothed her skirt. Gabriel had given her a credit card to buy appropriate attire, so she was wearing a tailored blazer and slacks, looking more like a personal assistant than a waitress. Minutes later, she heard footsteps. Heavy ones, followed by lighter, clicking heels. Gabriel appeared at the top of the grand staircase. Beside him was Vincentina. The girl looked different today. She wasn't wearing the glamorous red dress. She was in ripped jeans and a vintage band tee, her hair in a messy bun. She looked younger, more vulnerable, until you saw her eyes. They were burning with betrayal. I don't need a babysitter, Daddy, Vincentina spat, gripping the banister. Especially not the serving girl. She is not a babysitter, Gabriel said calmly. She is your personal associate, and you will treat her with respect, or I will cut off your access to the Cayman accounts. Vincentina gasped. You wouldn't. Try me. Gabriel looked down at Elena. Elena, the floor is yours. Elena took a breath and walked up the first 3 steps. She stopped, looking up at Vincentina. Hi, Vincentina. Remember me? Vincentina sneered. The girl with the imaginary spinach. How much is he paying you to pretend to like me? Enough to tolerate the attitude. Elena shot back. Look, we can do this the hard way or the easy way. The easy way involves us hanging out, maybe doing some shopping, and getting you through this gala without a homicide charge. The hard way involves me following you around like a bad smell and reporting every single misstep to your father. Vincentina glared at her father. I hate you. I know, Gabriel said wearily. Lunch is at 1. Don't be late. Gabriel turned and walked down the hall, disappearing into his study. He left Elena alone on the stairs with the girl who had a reputation for arson. Vincentina slowly walked down the stairs until she was face to face with Elena. Up close, Elena could see the dark circles under her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands. You think you can fix me? Vincentina whispered. Psychologists with PhDs have tried. They all left crying. I'm not trying to fix you, Elena said honestly. I'm just trying to keep you alive. And maybe myself, too. Vincentina studied her. She circled Elena like a shark. She reached out and touched the fabric of Elena's cheap blazer. "This is polyester," Vincentina said with disdain. "If you're going to be seen with me, we need to burn this." "It's new," Elena protested. "It's hideous." Vincentina turned and started walking toward the back of the house. She paused and looked back over her shoulder. "Well, are you coming? Or did you just come here to stare at the architecture?" Elena blinked. "Where are we going?" "The greenhouse," Vincentina said. "I grow poisonous plants. I want to see if you're allergic to nightshade." Elena hesitated. This was madness. She was walking into a greenhouse of poison with a sociopath, but then she remembered the check. She remembered Gabriel's tired eyes, and she saw a flicker of something in Vincentina's posture. She was waiting. She was waiting to see if Elena would run. Elena adjusted her blazer. "Lead the way," she said. "But if I die, my ghost is going to haunt your shoe closet." A corner of Vincentina's mouth twitched. It was almost a smile. "Come on, serving girl," Vincentina called out. "Let's see how long you last." As they walked through the opulent halls, Elena felt eyes on her. She glanced up at the landing. Harrison Morvale was there, watching them. He didn't look happy. He looked like a man who had been replaced, and his eyes held a cold, calculating jealousy that made Elena shiver. She had worried about the daughter. She hadn't realized that in a house full of wolves, the other pack members might be the real danger. The greenhouse was a humid jungle of rare orchids and lethal nightshades, a fitting sanctuary for a girl who felt like she was poisonous to everyone she touched. Elena Vance had survived the initial tour without touching anything, though Vincentina had watched her with a hawk-like intensity, waiting for a slip-up. 2 days later, the real test began. "Get in," Vincentina commanded, standing by the open door of a matte black SUV. "If I have to be seen with you, we're fixing your wardrobe. You look like you buy your clothes by the pound." Elena looked at her comfortable slacks and sighed. "I buy my clothes so I can pay rent, Vincentina. We can't all wear the GDP of a small country on our feet. Less talking. More getting in." The destination was Maison Dubois, a boutique so exclusive the front door was locked and you had to be buzzed in by a security guard who looked like he judged souls for a living. As they entered, the air conditioning hit them, scented with lavender and money. A sales associate, a woman with a smile as tight as her facelift, glided over. Her eyes landed on Vincentina, lighting up with recognition, before sliding to Elena and dimming to disdain. "Miss Stormcrest," the woman cooed. "What a delight. And a guest?" "This is Elena," Vincentina said, flipping through a rack of silk gowns. "She needs everything. Start with something that doesn't say Employee of the Month." The next 2 hours were a blur of fabric and judgment. Vincentina sat on a velvet ottoman, sipping sparkling water, rejecting outfit after outfit with a wave of her hand. No, too frumpy. No, too desperate. No. That makes her look like a librarian who kills people. Elena emerged from the dressing room for the 12th time, wearing an emerald green slip dress that hugged curves she didn't know she had. She felt exposed, ridiculous, and strangely powerful. The sales associate, whose name was distinctively not on a name tag because people here didn't wear them, smirked. Perhaps something with more coverage would suit her figure better? The insult was subtle, wrapped in faux politeness, but it landed. Elena stiffened. Vincentina stopped scrolling on her phone. The air in the boutique dropped 10 degrees. "Excuse me?" Vincentina asked, her voice dropping to that dangerous whisper Elena had heard at the restaurant. The associate faltered. "I only meant—" "I know what you meant." Vincentina stood up, stalking toward the woman. "You meant that she doesn't belong here. You meant that she's not one of us." Vincentina reached out and adjusted the strap of Elena's dress, her touch surprisingly gentle. Then she turned her dark eyes back to the saleswoman. "Let me clarify something for you. She is with me. That makes her royalty. If you insult her again, I will buy this building and turn it into a parking lot. Do you understand?" The woman went pale. "Yes, Miss Stormcrest. I apologize." "Good. Now go get the matching heels, the red bottoms." When the woman scurried away, Elena looked at Vincentina in the mirror. "You didn't have to do that. She was annoying me," Vincentina shrugged, sitting back down. But she didn't look at her phone this time. She looked at Elena. "Green suits you. My mother loved green." It was the first time Vincentina had mentioned her mother. The silence that followed wasn't hostile. It was heavy with unspoken grief. She must have had good taste, Elena said softly. Vincentina looked away, her jaw tightening. She had terrible taste in men, but she knew how to dress for a war. Vincentina met Elena's gaze in the mirror. If you're going to survive the gala, Elena, you need armor. This world. They will eat you alive if they think you're soft. Don't let them see the waitress. Make them see the queen. Elena realized then that the shopping trip wasn't about clothes. It was training. Vincentina wasn't just dressing a doll, she was equipping a soldier. The week leading up to the gala was a whirlwind of etiquette lessons, dress fittings, and navigating the minefield of the Whitthorn estate. Elena learned quickly that the mansion was divided. There were those loyal to Gabriel, those terrified of Vincentina, and Harrison Morvale, who seemed to be playing a game of his own. On Thursday, Gabriel requested they attend a charity luncheon at the Botanical Gardens. It was a low-risk event, according to Constantine. Just ladies eating salads and donating money to save obscure birds. Elena sat next to Vincentina at a round table covered in white linen. The sun was shining, a string quartet was playing, and for a moment, life felt normal. "Don't look now," Vincentina murmured behind her champagne flute. "But the woman in the hat at 2 o'clock is the wife of the police commissioner. She's cheating on him with her tennis instructor. And the man by the fountain? That's Luca Vanzetti. His family moves heroin through the port. Daddy hates him." Elena scanned the crowd. "You know everyone's secrets? Information is currency," Vincentina said. "Daddy taught me that before he taught me how to ride a bike." Elena watched Luca Vanzetti. He was on his phone, looking agitated. He wasn't looking at the birds. He was looking at the perimeter. "Something's wrong," Elena said, her stomach tightening. "Relax, Vance. It's a garden party." "No," Elena put her napkin down. "Look at the security. Your guards are by the east gate. Vanzetti's guys just moved to the west, and 2 servers just walked out of the kitchen with heavy trays, but they aren't carrying food." Vincentina frowned, following Elena's gaze. "How do you know they aren't carrying food?" "Because of the way they're walking," Elena said, her years of carrying overloaded trays kicking in. "You lean back when it's soup or plates. You lean forward when the weight is dense, like metal." Before Vincentina could respond, the first server reached into his tray and pulled out a submachine gun. "Down!" Elena screamed, tackling Vincentina out of her chair just as the air erupted with gunfire. Chaos, screams, shattering glass. Elena and Vincentina hit the grass, crawling behind the thick stone rim of the fountain. Bullets chipped the stone inches above their heads. "Where are my guards?" Vincentina yelled, covering her head. Pinned down at the east gate, Elena peered around the fountain. The 2 gunmen were advancing, firing into the air to scatter the crowd, creating a path straight to their table. This wasn't a robbery. It was a hit. "We have to move," Elena said. "They're flanking us." "Move where?" "We're sitting ducks." Vincentina was trembling, her face pale. The mask of the Mafia princess had slipped, revealing a terrified 22-year-old girl. Elena grabbed Vincentina's face, forcing eye contact. "Listen to me. We are not dying today. I still have student loans to pay. See that service entrance behind the trellis? It's locked." "I have a corkscrew," Elena said. Pulling the sturdy waiter's tool from her pocket, old habits died hard. "Run on my signal." "Elena, you're a waitress, not James Bond. Today, I'm both. Go." Elena grabbed a heavy crystal pitcher of iced tea from the table ruins and hurled it over the fountain to the left. It smashed loudly. The gunmen turned toward the noise. "Run!" They sprinted. Elena shoved Vincentina toward the trellis, putting her own body between the girl and the shooters. She heard the zip-zip of bullets tearing through the foliage around them. They reached the door. Locked. "Hurry!" Vincentina screamed. Elena jammed the corkscrew into the old lock mechanism, twisting violently. It wasn't a key, but the lock was old and rusted. With a grunt of effort and a prayer, she kicked the door near the handle. Wood splintered. The door gave way. They tumbled into the humid darkness of the maintenance tunnels just as bullets chewed up the doorframe behind them. Elena slammed the door and dragged a heavy shelving unit in front of it. For a moment, there was only the sound of their ragged breathing in the dark. "You," Vincentina gasped, staring at Elena in the gloom. "You threw a pitcher of iced tea. Distraction technique," Elena panted, clutching a stitch in her side. "Table 4 used to do it to get free refills." Vincentina started to laugh. It was a hysterical, breathless sound, but it was real. She reached out and grabbed Elena's hand, squeezing it hard. "Okay," Vincentina said. "Maybe you're not just a waitress." The ride back to the estate was silent, but the atmosphere had shifted. The Bentley was filled with the scent of gunpowder and fear. Gabriel had arrived at the scene 10 minutes too late, his face a mask of cold fury that terrified even the police. When they arrived at the estate, Gabriel didn't speak. He marched into the house, barking orders at Constantine to find Vanzetti and burn everything he owns. Vincentina was ushered upstairs by the medical staff, though she was physically unharmed. Elena was left standing in the foyer, her green dress grass-stained, her hair a mess. "Miss Vance." Harrison Morvale appeared from the shadows. He looked pristine, untouched by the chaos. "Mr. Whitthorn wants to see you in his study." "Where were you, Harrison?" Elena asked, her voice low. "At the lunch." "Where were you?" Harrison's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Checking the perimeter." "As per protocol." "You were on the wrong side of the garden," Elena said. "If I hadn't moved her, but you did." Harrison stepped closer, looming over her. "You played the hero. Enjoy it while it lasts, Elena. Luck runs out. Protocols don't." He opened the study door for her. Gabriel was standing by the fireplace, staring into the flames. He had shed his jacket and rolled up his sleeves, revealing forearms that were surprisingly muscular. He held a glass of whiskey in one hand. "Close the door," he said without turning. Elena closed it. The room felt intimate, charged with the residual electricity of the day's violence. "You saved her," Gabriel said. He turned around. The look in his eyes stopped Elena's heart. It wasn't the gratitude of a father. It was the intense, burning focus of a man seeing a woman for the first time. "I just did what had to be done," Elena said. "My best men were pinned down. My lieutenant was out of position. But you? You saw the trays." Gabriel walked over to her. He stopped a foot away. "Constantine told me what you said, about the weight distribution. I carried trays for 6 years, Mr. Whitthorn. You notice things." "Gabriel," he corrected. "Call me Gabriel." He reached out, his hand hovering near her face. He brushed a stray leaf from her hair. His fingers lingered near her cheek, rough and warm. "You could have run," Gabriel said softly. "Most people would have run." "I told you," Elena whispered, her breath hitching. "I don't run." The air between them crackled. It was a dangerous pull, a magnetic force that defied logic. He was a crime lord. She was the help. But in that moment, staring into his dark, tormented eyes, Elena felt a pull she hadn't expected. He leaned in, just an inch. Elena didn't pull away. "Daddy?" The voice broke the spell. Gabriel pulled back sharply. Elena took a step back, her heart racing. Vincentina stood in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket. She looked between them, her father, flushed and intense. Elena, breathless and wide-eyed. Vincentina's eyes narrowed. She saw the tension. She saw the spark. "I can't sleep," Vincentina said, her voice flat. "The doctors gave me pills, but I don't trust them." Gabriel cleared his throat, buttoning his cuff, transforming back into the patriarch. "I'll sit with you, darling." Elena was just leaving. Elena nodded quickly, unable to look at either of them. "Yes, I'm going to bed. Good night." She hurried past Vincentina, but the girl caught her arm. "Elena," Vincentina said. "Yes? Thank you." For today, the words were genuine, but there was a new wariness in Vincentina's eyes. She had accepted Elena as an ally, perhaps even a friend. But seeing her with Gabriel, that was a complication neither of them had prepared for. "Get some rest," Vincentina said, releasing her arm. "We have the gala in 2 days. And after today, everyone will be watching us." Elena walked to her room, her mind reeling. She had survived a shootout. She had earned the respect of the Mafia princess. But as she touched her cheek where Gabriel's fingers had brushed, she realized the most dangerous part of her job hadn't been the bullets. It was the man who signed the checks. And somewhere in the dark, Harrison Morvale was making a phone call. And the name Elena Vance was spoken with a finality that sounded a lot like a death sentence. The Whitthorn annual gala was not merely a party, It was a geopolitical event held in a ballroom. The estate's grand hall had been transformed into a glittering cavern of gold leaf, white roses, and enough diamonds to purchase a small continent. Elena Vance stood at the top of the marble staircase, smoothing the skirt of her gown. It was a deep, midnight blue silk, chosen by Vincentina. It didn't look like armor, but tonight, it had to serve as such. "Stop fidgeting," Vincentina whispered beside her. The Mafia princess looked ethereal in silver, a stark contrast to her usual dark palette. She looked like a blade catching the moonlight. "You look like you belong here, which is annoying, because I usually like to be the only stunning one in the room." Elena smiled nervously. "I feel like an imposter. Half these people probably know I served them calamari 3 weeks ago." "Let them look," Vincentina said, linking her arm through Elena's. "If they stare too long, I'll ask them if they want to see my knife collection." "Vincentina, no knives tonight. Remember the agreement?" "Fine, no knives, just scathing insults." They descended the stairs together. The room went quiet. It was the entrance Gabriel had paid for, but the reaction was genuine. For years, Vincentina had entered this room scowling, drunk, or armed. Tonight, she descended with the grace of a queen, guided by the steady hand of the woman in blue. Gabriel Whitthorn waited at the bottom of the stairs. He wore a tuxedo that fit him like a second skin. When his eyes landed on Vincentina, he looked proud. When they slid to Elena, the look darkened into something more complex, possessive, relieved, and dangerous. "You both look formidable," Gabriel said, taking Vincentina's hand and kissing it, then turning to Elena. He hesitated for a fraction of a second before taking her hand as well. His skin was warm against hers. "Elena, save a dance for me." "I don't know the waltz, sir," Elena murmured, aware of the hundreds of eyes on them. "Then I will teach you," Gabriel replied, his voice low. "I am a very patient teacher." The night began. It was a blur of handshakes, fake smiles, and tension so thick it could be cut with a spoon. Elena stayed close to Vincentina, navigating the shark tank. She steered the girl away from rivals, diffused a tense moment with a senator's wife by complimenting her hideous brooch, and ensured Vincentina only drank sparkling water. It was working. The wild child of the Whitthorn Empire was charming the room. But Elena couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She scanned the perimeter. Constantine was holding court near the bar, but Harrison Morvale was missing. "Where is he?" Elena whispered to herself. "Who?" Gabriel appeared at her elbow, handing her a glass of champagne. "Harrison. He's your head of security. He should be glue on you tonight." Gabriel frowned, scanning the room. "He is checking the surveillance feeds in the security suite. He insisted on overseeing the Vanzetti threat personally." Vanzetti. Elena's mind raced. The attack in the garden. The servers with guns. Harrison being out of position. It clicked. It was a horrifying, jagged puzzle piece that finally fit. "Gabriel," Elena said, her voice dropping. "At the garden, Harrison wasn't out of position. He moved the guards away from us." Gabriel went still. "Careful, Elena. That is a heavy accusation." "He hates me," Elena said fast. "But he hates you more for replacing him. He's not checking the feeds, Gabriel. He's turning them off." As if on cue, the lights in the ballroom flickered. A murmur of confusion rippled through the crowd. Then, the main doors slammed shut. The heavy iron bolts slid into place with a deafening clang. The music stopped. From the balcony above, a voice boomed over the sudden silence. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption." It was Harrison. He stood by the railing, holding a microphone in one hand and a detonator in the other. Beside him stood Luca Vanzetti. "Harrison!" Gabriel roared, stepping in front of Vincentina and Elena. "It's over, Gabriel," Harrison shouted down. His face twisted in a manic grin. "You got soft. You let a waitress run your house. You let your daughter run wild. The families need a leader, not a babysitter. And you think that leader is you?" Gabriel sneered. "Me?" Harrison laughed. "No. I'm just the guy opening the door for Mr. Vanzetti." Vanzetti stepped forward, raising an assault rifle. "Whitthorn, tonight, the city changes hands." The ballroom erupted in screams. But before Vanzetti could fire, Harrison looked directly at Elena. And you, Harrison pointed the detonator at her. You're the first to go. Goodbye, serving girl. Get down. Gabriel shoved Elena and Vincentina behind a heavy ice sculpture table just as Vanzetti opened fire. Bullets shattered the ice, sending shards flying like diamonds. The room was a stampede of panic. Guests scrambled for exits that wouldn't open. Security guards loyal to Gabriel were engaging Vanzetti's men, who were rappelling down from the balcony. He has the perimeter rigged, Gabriel shouted over the gunfire, pulling a handgun from his tuxedo jacket. If he presses that button, the exits blow inward. We'll be crushed. We need to get to the security suite, Vincentina yelled, her eyes wide but surprisingly clear. We can override the lockdown from there. It's on the 3rd floor. Gabriel returned fire, taking down a masked mercenary. I can't cover you both. You don't have to, Elena said. She looked at the abandoned catering cart near the kitchen swing doors. It was loaded with heavy silver platters and steak knives. Elena looked at Vincentina. Remember the garden? The distraction? Vincentina nodded, a fierce grin spreading across her face. She reached down, ripped the slit of her silver dress up to her thigh for mobility, and grabbed a bottle of champagne from the floor. Daddy, Vincentina said, cover us. Are you insane? Gabriel shouted. No, Vincentina said. I'm ungovernable. Go, Elena screamed. Elena and Vincentina bolted. Gabriel roared in frustration but stood up, firing with terrifying precision, creating a corridor of safety for the two women. They reached the kitchen doors. Elena shoved the catering cart into the hallway, sending it careening into 2 mercenaries who were coming up the service stairs. They went down in a tangle of metal and silverware. Nice aim, Vincentina yelled. They sprinted up the back stairs, heels clicking on the concrete. They reached the 3rd floor. The door to the security suite was guarded by one man, a brute, twice the size of Elena. He raised his gun. Vincentina didn't hesitate. She didn't slow down. She swung the heavy Magnum champagne bottle with the force of a professional batter. Crack. The bottle didn't break, but the man's nose definitely did. He crumpled. My vintage! Vincentina gasped, looking at the bottle. Thank God it held. Elena kicked the gun away and pushed into the room. Harrison was there. He wasn't looking at the door. He was watching the monitors, his finger hovering over the detonator. He turned as they burst in. You! Harrison snarled, raising his pistol. Elena froze. She was unarmed. Vincentina was holding a bottle of wine. Harrison had a gun. Drop the bottle, princess. Harrison sneered. Or the waitress gets a third eye. Vincentina slowly lowered the bottle. Harrison, you don't have to do this. Daddy will kill you. But if you stop now, I might let you live. Shut up! Harrison stepped toward Elena, grabbing her by the hair and pressing the gun to her temple. You ruined everything. He was supposed to be mine. The Empire was supposed to be mine. Then you walked in with your cheap shoes and your attitude. Elena winced, tears stinging her eyes. But she didn't beg. She looked at the console behind Harrison. The override switch was a big red button. Classic. Harrison, Elena said. Her voice shaking but loud. You missed a spot. What? Harrison frowned, confused. On your tux, you spilled wine. It was the stupidest thing to say. It was absurd. But Harrison Morvale, a man obsessed with image, a man who had cleaned a rug on his knees because of a stain, instinctively glanced down at his chest. In that split second, Elena stomped on his instep with her stiletto heel. Harrison howled, his grip loosening. Elena dropped her weight, twisting out of his grasp. Vinny, now! Vincentina didn't throw the bottle. She threw herself. She tackled Harrison, driving her shoulder into his gut. They hit the floor. The gun skittered away. The detonator slid across the room. Harrison was stronger. He backhanded Vincentina, sending her crashing into the desk. He scrambled for the detonator. No, you don't, Elena lunged. She didn't go for Harrison. She went for the detonator. She grabbed it just as Harrison's hand closed around her wrist. He squeezed, crushing bone. I'll blow us all to hell, Harrison screamed. Not today. A voice boomed from the doorway. Gabriel stood there. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead, his tuxedo torn, his chest heaving. He held his gun leveled at Harrison's head. Let go of her, Gabriel said. The temperature in the room dropped to absolute zero. Harrison froze. He looked at Gabriel, then at the detonator. If I press this, she dies too, Gabriel. Gabriel didn't blink. He looked at Elena. Do you trust me? Elena looked at the man who had bought her freedom, the man who had looked at her like she was the only woman in the world. Yes, she whispered. Bang. The shot was deafening in the small room. Harrison Morvale slumped backward, a neat hole in his shoulder. He screamed, dropping the detonator. Elena scrambled back, kicking the device toward Gabriel. Gabriel crushed it under his boot. He walked over to Harrison, who was clutching his bleeding shoulder, wheezing. You missed my head, Harrison gasped, laughing painfully. You're getting old, Gabriel. I didn't aim for your head, Gabriel said coldly. Death is too easy. You are going to live, Harrison. You are going to live in a very small cell. And every day you are going to remember that you lost to a girl and a waitress. Gabriel turned to Constantine, who had just arrived with a team of loyal guards. Take him, and tell the police we caught the terrorist responsible for the attack. We're heroes tonight, Constantine smirked. Brilliant narrative, sir. Gabriel holstered his gun and dropped to his knees beside Vincentina. Are you hurt? Vincentina sat up, rubbing her jaw. He hits like a girl. I'm fine. She looked at Elena. Is she okay? Gabriel turned to Elena. She was sitting against the wall, shaking. The adrenaline was crashing. Elena, Gabriel said, his voice soft, terrified. He reached out, cupping her face. Did he hurt you? Elena looked at him. Then she looked at Vincentina. Then she started to laugh. It was a shaky, tearful laugh. I can't believe I used the Weinstein trick again, she choked out. Vincentina started laughing too. Gabriel looked between them, bewildered, then relieved. He pulled Elena into his arms, burying his face in her neck. He held her tight, as if she were the only thing keeping him tethered to the earth. It's over, he whispered into her hair. It's over. The aftermath was a media frenzy. The story was spun. A rogue employee, Harrison, and a rival gang leader, Vanzetti, had attempted a hostile takeover, and the brave Whitthorn family had defended their guests. Elena Vance was hailed as a courageous staff member in the papers. But inside the estate, she was something else entirely. 3 days later, Elena was packing her suitcase. The gala was over. Her contract was fulfilled. The debt was paid. She folded the green dress. She heard a knock on the door. Vincentina walked in. She wasn't wearing black. She was wearing a soft pink sweater. You're leaving? Vincentina asked. Job's done, Elena said, not looking up. You survived. You were perfect. You don't need a handler anymore. I never needed a handler, Vincentina said. I needed a friend. Elena stopped. She looked at the girl who had threatened to stab her a month ago. You have a friend, Elena said. Always. Even if I'm working at a diner across town. You're not working at a diner, a deep voice said. Gabriel stood in the doorway. He walked into the room, taking the suitcase from the bed and setting it on the floor. The contract is void, Gabriel said. Void? Elena's heart hammered. But I did everything you asked. You did more, Gabriel said. You saved my daughter. You saved my life. You saved my soul, I think. He took a step closer, invading her space in that way that made her knees weak. I don't want an employee, Elena. I want a partner. Vincentina needs you. The estate needs you. He paused, his dark eyes searching hers. I need you. As what? Elena breathed. Gabriel smiled, the same devastating smile he had given her in his office, but this time it reached his eyes. As whatever you want to be. The boss? The queen? The woman who keeps us all from killing each other? Vincentina rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. Just kiss her, Dad. It's painful to watch. Gabriel chuckled. He reached out, tilting Elena's chin up. Stay, he whispered. Don't run. Elena looked at the suitcase. Then she looked at the two of them, the broken, dangerous, beautiful family she had somehow hot-wired back together. I suppose someone has to make sure you don't buy 2004 Pinot Noir, Elena said. Gabriel closed the distance. He kissed her. It wasn't a tentative kiss. It was a promise. It tasted of whiskey and victory. When they broke apart, Breathless, Vincentina was already at the door. Gross, she said affectionately. I'm going to the greenhouse. Elena, coming? I want to show you the belladonna. It's blooming. Elena smiled against Gabriel's lips. I'll be right there. She watched Vincentina walk down the hall. She looked at Gabriel. Go. Gabriel said softly. I'll be here. Elena Vance, the waitress who stood up to a storm, walked out of the room. She didn't look back at her suitcase. She had a new uniform now, armor made of loyalty, love, and just a little bit of danger. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't serving anyone. She was home. And just like that, the waitress didn't just survive the Shark Tank, she became the one running the aquarium. Elena Vance proved that sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun or a knife. It's the courage to stand your ground when everyone else is running for the exit. Gabriel got his queen. Vincentina found her equal. And Harrison? Well, let's just say he has plenty of time to think about wine stains. What did you think of Elena's transformation? Would you have stayed with Gabriel? Or taken the money and run? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of romance, betrayal, and mafia justice, smash that like button, it really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next dramatic saga. Until next time, keep reading between the lines.